Welcome to Live a Catholic Life where faith, family, and life meet.
Welcome indeed. My name is Deacon Andrew Hogan. I have a very special guest with me today. A guest I've been trying to get in here for at least a couple weeks, right, Father?
That's correct.
Yeah. And Father, I met through the first time down at Planned Parenthood. You were down there praying the rosary the first time I ever saw you by yourself, just quietly praying. And I was moved by that, moved by the fact that here this young priest is just by himself down in front of Planned Parenthood praying for those who need our prayers.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's probably where you first saw me. But I remember our first conversation was at Curcio,
Yes.
right when I finished my Curcio, which everyone should do and think about doing.
Yeah. And that experience for you was fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love, excuse me, I loved Curcio. I mean, it builds friendships that last forever. The perfect kind of friends for guys, too. You don't have to maintain those friendships, they're always there.
That was exactly.
Yeah. So Father David's last name is, see if I get this right, David Aufiero.
You got it more right than I ever did.
You know, I looked up your name. It means like traveling king. Have you ever looked up your last name?
I have to admit, I haven't. I thought that it was like iron or fire. So, like
Yeah.
my first pastor, Father John Salatino, when he introduced me to the parish, he called me the Man of Steel.
Oh, wow.
So
That's a
I'll
big
take
thing to live.
traveling king.
That's a big thing to live up to. Yeah.
Amen.
Well, Father, it's really nice of you to come today and to
Pleasure.
do the podcast and the YouTube video with us. And switch this camera over here so we can all be in the picture. All right, so we're going to start by just getting your history. Tell me about, where you grew up, your parents. What was your childhood like?
I lived with both of my parents. Fortunately, I'm from the Boston area. Grew up in Revere, Massachusetts, and I lived with my grandmother when I was a kid. And every weekend, I would take a cab and even take a bus sometimes to go caddy. I started caddying when I was 13 years old. That's when you carry golf bags. I really was interested in starting to work when I was 10, and I was doing just about anything I could to like make money. Like, I would go over to the, airport and, like, put carriages into the machine and get a quarter back. But it was really exciting when I started caddying because, we had, a means to make some money, a means to learn a great game of golf. We went to church just about on Sundays, not every Sunday, I have to admit, but we were also altar servers. I'm a middle child of 3 boys, and when we were, altar servers, that's when I would kinda go to mass when I was kinda growing up, that way, and especially for Christmas, and Easter and the times when I was, so we were really trying to make it. My mother really tried to impart the faith, and my dad was definitely a firm believer, but he was not necessarily Catholic. He went to a Protestant church. So I had a father who was Protestant, mother who was Catholic, and my mother's side of the family was Catholic. Tried to instill those Catholic values, and we were all baptized Catholics, received our sacraments, went to CCD, those kinds of things, and yeah, eventually, obviously, the Catholic scope of things kind of won out. I went to Protestant services with my dad every once in a while. My dad sat us down on his knee and told us about some Bible stories, especially David and Goliath.
Yeah.
Growing up, so that was really neat. And we just kind of went from there. And but the structure of the mass was always, that level of importance. The structure was something that kind of drew me in. And even when I served mass after, I used to fight with my mom every time when she tried to get me to go serve mass, and every time I did, I was always happy that I was there, and I got compliments for doing a good job, that kind of thing. I was in 4th grade, and then I just stuck with it, and eventually became an altar man and became a priest.
So your father, first of all, he withheld his baptismal promises, right?
Mm.
He promised when you were baptized, he promised to raise you in the faith, and he did all that, although that wasn't his faith. That's where you were raised, and that's where you were educated in the faith. Um, is your father still with us?
My father's not with us, no.
Did your father ever become Catholic, or did he
He came
always?
back. My understanding is that there was a reversion there. As we kind of, as I kind of moved along in my seminary formation, there was definitely a reversion there, which is good.
Right.
And in fairness to him, you know, not living out his baptismal promises. I think, in my opinion, I think that he, was someone who tried his best with the information that he had.
Right.
He wasn't necessarily, for whatever reason, possibly getting fed in the Catholic faith for whatever reason, and
Right.
tried somewhere else, and then eventually came back. And he
Right.
came back through my pursuit of my vocation.
And I meant he withheld the baptismal promise when he had you baptized.
Mm.
And your family, they were raised in the faith. You were serving mass and everything. So that's really an amazing example,
Oh,
a
absolutely.
witness of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
To hearing those words at baptism and understanding what your responsibility is, what you're saying yes to.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot there, Father. I got to ask, do you still play golf?
I still play golf. Yep. I've been struggling this year a little bit to really get below 40 on the 9 holes.
Wow.
But last I had one round below 40, and then after that, it just kind of sticking around 42. The putting is something that needs a little improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you ever played with Father Darcy?
I did. Yeah, we
Yeah.
had a good time. We were. It was me, Father Darcy, Father Brian McGrath, and Father Bob Gentile. We
Oh,
did a foursome in one of those Slice of Heaven tournaments, I believe, up in the Berkshires, sponsored by, I believe, at that tournament it was sponsored by Father Chris Malatesta, and we
nice.
had a little foursome. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, we had a good time.
He is one of the most competitive priests I know,
Who
Father
is?
Darcy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, don't play him in ping pong.
Okay.
It will hurt. Or pool. The man is he's intense.
That's good.
Yeah, and
No, he's a lot of fun to play with.
he is. He's fun about, all those sports. He's intense, but he's fun. He's not
Yeah.
crazy. So here you are as a young man living in Boston area, right?
Yeah.
What brings you out to Western Mass?
What brings me out to Western Mass? I decided to come to Western Mass to UMass Amherst.
Oh,
I was
okay.
really attracted to that school. And actually, as I was talking about living with my grandmother, we had some tough times growing up. My dad had an aneurysm rupture in his head when we were just kids. And so that's what got us to live with my grandmother. And then, kind of growing up, growing through teenage years and that kind of thing. We were holding on to the faith and that kind of thing. And then we got to a point where we were actually we actually did some time in foster care as well. So when we got through that, as I was approaching the end of my high school, I really kind of saw my education as my ticket, and that value of education was really kind of instilled into me. But then it was an opportunity to kind of go clean slate, go off, get an education, and really try to go and make something myself. And UMass Amherst, it was a good place. It was a good school, and then also it had some separation from the Boston area as well,
Right.
which was totally fine. And then went towards that degree at UMass.
Were you involved with the Newman Center at all when you were at UMass?
Yeah, I got involved in the Newman Center my second year when I was out there. My first year, I kind of did my own thing. I was hooked up with a youth group from back home, and the priest that was really instrumental in that was a priest by the name of Father Paul Soper out in the Boston area. And I would visit with him, visit with the youth group my first year. And then my second year, I got more involved in the Newman Center. And then my third year, I got very involved in the Newman Center when Focus came to town, got
Yeah.
involved into the Bible studies, went to a couple of Catholic conferences, and then discerned my vocation through the Newman Center.
Did you ever work for Focus?
I never worked for Focus. As I was, leaving the Newman Center and getting ready to graduate, I was thinking about different opportunities and different options that I may have. And one of them was to get a job in engineering, of course. And another one was to kind of go and pursue a vocation to the priesthood. And then Focus kind of got in there towards the end. And I decided, through some prayer and through some mentorship, to kind of go towards seminary. And it was great. Didn't look back. But Focus, I valued my time with Focus missionaries on campus.
Right. Was there what priest was at the Newman Center?
Oh, at the time, the priest at the Newman Center was Father Doug McGonigal. He is currently stationed in Hadley now
Yeah.
at Most Holy Redeemer Parish.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
yeah.
So you have two brothers. Any sisters?
No sisters, a middle child, three boys, and I always begged my mother for a sister, and
Yeah.
never quite got one. Yeah.
So where are your brothers on their journey in the faith? Are they faithful? Are they away from the faith? Or
My older brother is very faithful. I think he goes to like 7 o'clock mass on Sunday. He's involved. He does a lot of volunteering. with the church. And my little brother, he is a good guy. He needs a little help. I think coming back into being very faithful, but a good guy, and just need with a little prayer and encouragement. I think he'll come back on his way.
What's it like when you get together for holidays? Is there a dynamic there with you being a priest? Is it does it play a role? Does it affect your relationship? Do you get hard questions, that type of stuff?
When I was entering into the seminary, I got some really tough questions from my little brother. Big time, really hard hitting questions. All the stuff that you are the hard hitting questions, and the ones that kind of just make your blood pressure kind of raise a little bit.
Yeah,
So, and he just kept asking me to the point where I was exhausted. I just didn't feel like seeing him to the point where I didn't feel like seeing him. But in the midst of all those questions, he ended up. That's how he got his confirmation. So my first year of seminary, it was all those kinds of things, and then my second year was when he decided to receive confirmation. Yeah,
wow,
the sacrament of confirmation. So
that's cool.
yeah,
Now, have they did they come out here? Do they see you? Do they go to mass when they visit you?
yeah, they come to mass
Yeah,
every once in a while, and they come visit me. My little brother went out to Pittsfield when I was out there,
yeah.
and yeah, so
So it's I find it probably the most difficult part is when the family is there. If I'm preaching, I find it very hard when it's my siblings that are in the body. I don't know. Does that strike you? Do you think of that? Is that strikes fear into me? Because where I am in my faith and my journey is a different place from them. You
can you repeat the question?
know, when my family is at church and I'm preaching,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
usually just a ball of nerves. How and I find it the hardest when they're there. Do you find that same thing? Is like when you're preaching, your brother's out there in the body?
You know what? I
Yeah.
not necessarily. I'm really happy that they're there, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that they, are kind of out there to kind of support me. I think where I get nervous, no, like not for nothing, is that when you meet someone out and you're like kind of evangelizing, then they come to your mass
Yeah.
because they met you, and they're there because somehow, some way you lit a spark in them, and then they come to check out your mass, and that's the time I say to myself, I can't blow it,
Right.
but, with the family and stuff, it's good. It's like when you're like a 10-year-old kid and they're, you're playing baseball and they come to see your game, and you know that you're gonna play like a good game, and that they're watching you doing it for them. It
Right.
feels like that when I'm celebrating mass and they're in the crowd.
Right. How long have you been ordained now?
I've been ordained for 9 years. I was ordained
Wow.
2013. Yeah, June 1st. Hottest day of the summer.
And you still look very young. How old are you now, if you don't mind me
37.
asking? 37. You are
37. I was
very young.
ordained at 28. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. I mean, there is nothing more powerful than our young priests being together at one event or just with a group of young priests and having that vibe, because you guys have the energy, you have the zeal, and you have community with each other. You guys still get together and hang out, which is fantastic. I think that's something our older priests didn't have for what reason I do not know, but they tend to be a little more isolated.
Yeah.
They're good guys. They're serving the church. That I'm not saying anything negative about them, but having the young guys out there with the community, especially the younger community, the fruit is incredible. You see it. You were here at the youth group the other day, and the way they react when they see you is just their faces light up. You're a not only a mentor, but you're their spiritual guide. Even outside of the walls of the church, which is beautiful, really beautiful.
Amen. That's the hope anyway. Yeah.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It is the hope, and the younger generations, our future and our hope, and they're everything. And we need to embrace them and work with them, and you're doing that, and I commend you for that. So, as your time in the priesthood started 9 years ago, where did you first get assigned?
I was the first assigned to Pittsfield, St. Mark's Church in Pittsfield.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never been to St. Mark's or any churches up in Pittsfield. That's one thing we have to do, I think, more of. We got to get involved with those people up there who are part of our diocese.
Yeah. Up there in St. Mark's, I fell in love with it right away, right when I first got there, and, just very blessed to have a first assignment work out that way. Good people, it was a really beautiful area. The church was immaculate, really gorgeous, kinda Gothic style, really beautiful looking church, and I was with this, priest named Father John Salatino who was very welcoming towards me,
Yeah.
and, we didn't have a rectory up there, it was kind of a different situation, so I lived at St. Joseph Rectory. I lived with, Monsignor Michael Shoshanovich, and I'm from Boston. And when I first went to the rectory, I showed up and he was wearing a Yankees jacket,
Uh-oh.
New York Yankees jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw it was really funny. And then he just kind of gave me a hug and said welcome, And it was a really I was very fortunate to have a very warm welcome to the priesthood
Right.
through those priests.
That's fantastic. I think the first assignment is so critical,
Mm.
because you have to find your comfort. You also have to be surrounded by people you develop a relationship with that you can go back to
Yeah.
as you journey, especially for a young priest. It must be, I can't imagine, but it's difficult. As a young deacon, um, I was blessed to be assigned at a church where the previous deacon was there, and Deacon Paul Federici, and without him, I can't imagine the first 3 years
Mhm.
how they wouldn't been that simple, that easy, because he's been, a mentor, he's been a friend, he's been a teacher, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So 9 years ago, you get ordained and you start your journey. But I got to go back. Was there an event or a day where you first heard the call that you remember? Or is it just kind of a slow progression?
It was a slow progression, but really sort of the big bang that started that progression is, as I was saying, I was living in Revere, Point of Pines and Revere, and we had some tough times with the family, and everyone was telling me I should go see the priest in the neighborhood, and eh, I went to church when I was altar serving. I went to church Christmas and Easter and if I wasn't going to church, wasn't altar serving, I wasn't going to church, and so when they told me to go see this priest named Father Michael Garino, I didn't want to bother him with what was going on, but so I went and I talked to him, and we spent a whole hour talking about things kind of happening, and how Dad had an aneurysm, and things just kind of going on. And after the end of the hour, he looked at me and said, "Have you ever thought about being a priest?" And I said,
Wow.
"Yeah." I said, "No." And I was very in that moment. I was very flattered and glad that he asked the question. And I thought to myself, well, maybe that's how priests become priests. They're asked, and that's how it happens.
What a
And
concept.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then after that conversation, I got more involved in the church. I became a lector, speaking in front of people for the first time. I enjoyed it. I practiced. I took the book home right in front of the mirror, made sure I had all
Right.
the pronunciations correct, making good eye contact with people, and then I just got more involved that way. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So he must have saw something in you when you were speaking to him that time. I'm sure I can't imagine he talks says that to every young man that comes in have a conversation with him. But I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing to do that, but that is incredible. He saw something in you and you weren't put off by it. You were flattered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, um, I don't know what he saw. I mean, there
Yeah.
could have been something. It could have been an encouragement, and I feel like anytime you have a young man, definitely want to encourage him in the call because you never know what
Right.
kind of thing will grow.
Right. So after that meeting with him, were you a prayerful man, a young man? Did you pray at home before bed, or was the prayer any part of your life?
Prayer was somewhere kind of in there. I had a very a base understanding of prayer.
Right.
Dear God, please give me $1 million. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't, like using God as an ATM machine, just not
Right.
knowing any better.
Yeah.
As a teenager, I wasn't even sure. Even though Father Mike asked me that question, that was a beautiful question. I wasn't sure that he was there, even wanted to have a relationship with me.
Right.
That kind of thing. I always held that off towards people, who were either older or maybe holier than I, to kind of pray
Right.
regularly. But eventually I kind of discovered prayer I'd say probably when I was like around my teenage years, 19 years old, 20 years old, going to the Newman Center. that's when I really started to discover prayer, making that a priority. I was very attracted to the concept as a teenager,
Yep.
but it just at that point it just wasn't for me. Yeah.
Wow. So, do you remember praying on your calling, or if you had a calling, and how that made you feel? Was there any, you know, stirring of the Holy Spirit in you?
Yeah, I'd say 19, 20 is when I really started thinking about vocation. When I went to the Newman Center and made my way in there, I was studying civil engineering at the time at UMass Amherst. I went my way into the Newman Center. I'd always pick up a book about the vocations, about the priesthood, about religious life, all those kinds of things. And then I just kind of thought of it that way. And then when I had my summer internships, I would always think about like I'd read the Bible and read
Right,
about St. Paul going from place to place and evangelizing people that way. And that was always something that kind of made me excited. And I would think that maybe one day I'll be able to do that. And so
right,
that's where that came from. And there was a little draw, a little fire up, if you will, during those kinds of things. But at 19, 20, I always kind of had a marriage in the back of my mind as well.
right.
So I was thinking of those 2 things, yeah.
2 callings. So you were praying about either calling. Was there a Who was the first person you ever spoke to about the possibility? Was
Well,
it a family or a priest?
it was definitely a priest,
Okay.
and, I definitely spoke with Father Michael was the first one who talked to me about that, and, we didn't speak about it specifically all the time, but it was always in the back of my mind there,
Mhm.
and then he invited me to go to a come and see retreat, in Boston, which was a night, with other high school kids for dinner, and then I would talk about it with my family a little bit about the possibility of the priesthood, and I always had a sense that I'd probably get married one day, but the concept of priesthood was always kind of there. And then as time kind of went on, when I started getting involved in the Newman Center, I talked to Father Doug about it, Father Doug McGonigal. He had a vocations group out there, and he would just have like on Thursday night have mass and then have dinner afterwards, and we just talked about where people were at in their individual vocation journeys.
Right.
So that was always something good. And then through my time at the Newman Center, I got involved with Father Gary Daly, who was the vocation director that time.
Yep.
And, I went to him for confession. And then afterwards, we just kind of chatted a little bit. And he reached out, he came out to come talk to me. And, um, and then at the end of our chat, we chatted for about an hour. He asked me if I ever thought about becoming a priest. And so
Wow.
he was someone who I started speaking with regularly about priesthood. Yeah,
Wow.
here in the diocese.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, when have you ever gone back to the priest that you had that original conversation with years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a priest in Boston,
Yeah.
retired back in 2010,
Yeah.
and lives in Florida. So my first vacation was with him down in Sarasota,
Wow.
Florida. So me and Father Mac, we flew down to Florida and had a vacation at Sarasota. It was like 80 degrees down there. It was like -20 up here, so it was a
That's
nice little
perfect.
vacation. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
He was a good guy, very supportive, very happy for me that it seemed like such a fit. And then in the beginning when I was applying, he was telling me I should come be a priest in Boston.
Of course he should. Yeah. Yeah, he wanted you back at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
We're desperate need for young men to be priests. And I know that's a big concern of our diocese and our bishop, and he's working on it. And I think things are starting to come along. We have one seminarian now, and he's a great guy. So if you're thinking about this, please pray on it, and hopefully, if God's calling you, God would
Yeah.
use you.
Absolutely. I think yeah, one guy that we have definitely good guy,
Hmm.
and then we have another guy who's coming up from Springfield College, I believe that he's in, and we have a third guy. We have I think we have just about three. And I don't know if it's
Wow.
official yet,
Right.
but it's three definitely in the making, and they're three really solid guys. So that's really good news.
And that's good because, to be alone, you don't have that community, and you need community. Just like my diaconate class, we're very close. We don't see each other as much as we should, but we're very close because we are together for 4 years. You develop a friendship, a relationship.
Yeah.
Who else was in your class?
I had five of us we were ordained together. Myself, Father Michael Pierce, who just got assigned to Greenfield,
Yep.
and then Father Peter Salick, who is the Vicar General, Father Robert Miskell, who is assigned to the Newman Catholic Center, and then Father John Hurley, who's currently the parochial vicar at St. John Agawam.
Father John, I know Father John well.
Yeah, yeah,
He's a great guy.
yeah.
He's just an amazing man. He's always big with Cursillo too. He's very involved with Cursillo.
He was the spiritual director when I made my Cursillo.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So you're in Greenfield. You're in South Deerfield.
South
Deerfield now, and that's a beautiful community.
Absolutely.
I mean, the view from your back porch is Sugarloaf, right? It's it's really nice, and you've got Yankee Candle up there. You got historic Deerfield. You have Berkshire Brew, and Treehouse now is up there. So that area is really filling out. There's going to be a lot of activity up there. I know we did one theology on tap there last year at Berkshire Brew. They're talking about trying to do more up there, and hopefully maybe a Treehouse would be be an experience.
Treehouse would be something. It looks like a Tanglewood in Franklin County. I haven't been there yet, but I'm hoping to get there soon.
Yeah, it's that's the old Shannon Beat. It used to be our customer. We did all their networking up there. They've got walking trails and everything up there. It's really a nice piece of property.
Yeah.
So, and then you have Sugarloaf, which it's gorgeous. Going up to the top. Have you been up to the top yet?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've been there many times.
Yeah, it's a great view of the river valley. And that whole area up there. I lived in Sunderland for a while. Not Sunderland, Montague. Sunderland's on the other side of the river. So as a priest, you deal with all types of ages and kids and everything else. What's the funniest thing that's happened to you wearing your collar, whether it's in church or outside of church?
You know what? I'm not really sure if I have a funniest thing that's happened to me, but I have some bloopers that have happened to me at Mass. I once, not that this is laugh out loud funny, but when you get to the right after the prayer for the offerings, you get to the Lord be with you. I said, Saint Michael the Archangel. Oh wait, the Lord be with you. You have like little bloopers like that, like during Mass. And I go, oh, sorry, still in retreat mode.
Still in retreat mode.
And then, usually after like retreat, I always, that's when I kind of mess up my schedule, that kind of thing, just like bloopers. One time I was making an announcement after Mass, and I was really trying to encourage my community, maybe always, and then I just lost my train of thought, and I said, well, I'll see you around. And everyone just laughed and they said, see you around, like after church, like just little bloopers like that.
Right.
But like in terms of like laugh out loud funny, I'm not really sure, but like these cute little moments that were really funny in the moment, you just have to be there for it. Yeah.
So your new parish, is it comfortable? The people, are you being embraced by the body up there, the people?
It seems that way. You know, absolutely. The community is a nice, welcoming community, very, very open towards me kind of going there. So I feel like I've been warmly received, and the neighborhood, as you were describing it, is picture perfect, really beautiful. Like you have those really stunning sunsets, really stunning sunrises as well, and Sugarloaf is right there, and it's just a really pristine, kind of street, So and then the people are good, for the most part, you have good people no matter where you go.
Right. Right. And you're following Father Reardon was there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
we did a parish swap.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. It's good. I think the more the young priests get to know the wider community in the diocese, so when these changes happen, you already know people, and it makes it that much easier for for things to start gelling and coming together in the parish. So I know you don't get a ton of time off, but you guys are alone in the parish, you're doing everything. What do you like to do when you do have time off?
Usually I like to play stuff. I like to play sports, golf. When I was assigned to St. Mark's, I did a little men's league Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Right after church, I'd go over there. Do those kinds of things. Get together with guys who are priests, and sometimes I go, see my family in Boston. Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And just kind of switch it up that way. And but more often than not, on my day off, I'm usually on the golf course in the summer.
Right.
Usually shooting hoop a little bit in the winter, that kind of thing.
So you're Italian. That your last name is Italian. Are you 100% Italian? What if you had to guess? how much Italian are you?
My brother did a heritage search,
Yeah.
and I am about 70% Italian
Nice.
and 11% English, and then 20% like a bunch of other things. So
Wow.
like kind of like a mutt, but mostly Italian, and second place is English. I thought I was more Irish than I was English, but I'm actually more English than Irish, and I got a little Spanish blood in there too. So
Nice.
like European Spanish.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what do you like for food? Is it Italian? Is it Mexican? What's your go-to?
Honestly, I like everything.
Yeah,
On like a day off or something after like playing nine at a golf course, I go for Bueno Isano. You know what I mean?
always
Mexican
good.
food.
Oh,
Yeah, always good.
especially Bueno.
Exactly.
They're
Yeah, for
they're a
sure.
customer of ours too.
And then obviously when you're with family
Yeah,
and stuff like that, it's always Italian.
always
Yeah.
Italian. Do you cook?
Yeah. I cook a little bit. I'm not like a huge gourmet cook.
Yeah,
I like to eat,
yeah.
but in terms of cooking, I'm not going to go hungry.
All right, all
You know.
right. Well, we're gonna have to have you over for a nice Italian dinner one of these days.
Sounds
I'm
awesome.
Irish, but I like to cook Italian.
Fair enough.
Um,
I like everything. I'm not a picky eater, so
all right, that's
yeah.
good. You're an easy guest then.
Yeah.
So, Father, I got to tell you, this is fantastic. Your story is nice. It's a good story, and you don't think about those little moments that one conversation really kind of led you to where you are now. You're a priest of our Lord, which is the most amazing thing in the world, and we are fortunate to have you. And I want to say for myself and for everybody else in the diocese, thank you for your yes to our Lord, because this is a beautiful witness to love as being a priest.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. Love the diocese, and love it more and more as I serve here. So
Our
yeah,
bishop rocks too.
yeah,
Just
definitely.
being around him, I told him the last time I was with him, I said, every time I hear you preach, I just want to go out and climb a mountain. I mean, the
Wow.
guy is just, he fires me up, and the joy is real, and it's, it's contagious.
Yeah,
When you're with him, he does light you on fire. Well, thank you, Father. I appreciate this, and I appreciate you coming out here and making the time and spending time with the youth groups. It's fantastic.
absolutely. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.
The greatest thing I can be when I grow up is a saint.